Today we'll see after the Shmaya have a special shir covered Pesach out of our system of shiurim, which are usually in the topic of bitochen, but now the covered Pesach, this is the mitzvah to learn and to study what we're supposed to be, which mitzvahs and how we're supposed to be mekayim mitzvahs on Pesach. So we'll start off with this nice story that I saw from Rav Ella Roth. I think it should be there, the Sefer from Rav Ella Roth, yeah, that with the tissue on the bottom. The Sefer Ish Chassid Hoya, which describes the life biography of Rav Ella Roth, beautiful Sefer, which talks about his whole life. He was a Yid that had a lot of Yisurim, a lot of pain. He didn't have children. He was sick, his wife was sick, he didn't have money. And a lot beside that going on, and he was always happy.
We're still on topic.
We're still on topic. Yeah. As we continue this year, we'll find ourselves more and more going back to the same Yisoidus.
You mentioned it a few times already, huh?
Yeah, we mentioned it a lot of times. We knew a lot of people that knew him, that lived with him, that were his Talmidim, Al Kaponim. So Rebbe Roth had different times in his life, and there was this Pesach night by the Seder that he came in with the Talmud. I think it was with Pinchas Rosenbaum, Zechariah Levracha. I think it was with him. But he came in with a boy, with a bocha, and the bocha thought he's fainting. He saw the situation in the house. It was very, very sad. His wife was very sick. He wasn't doing well. It wasn't prepared. You walk in their house, dingy. You could see still in Yerushalayim, the place where mamish underground, dark, and it wasn't clean. It was nothing prepared for the Seder. And you walk in Pesach by night into your house, in the dining room, you're supposed to be feeling like a melech and cheres and all that. None of the above. And Rebbe Ella watched his facial expression, and he saw what that boy is thinking. So he looks at the kid and he says, L'choira, he says, what is it called a beautiful Seder? He says, when a person is sitting with Rosh HaShulchan he's sitting at the table, and he has his children and his son-in-laws and grandchildren all sitting lined up, beautiful, and there is orchim, this nice guest, and this beautiful silver kalim on the table. And it's just gorgeous. And Rebbe Ella had a beautiful way of explaining himself. He said, you have these gorgeous wine bottles, and you have the red color bursting out of glass. He says, and then you have the melech, the balabos, with his kittel, and his face is shining, and the kaira and the matzahs. He says, that's a beautiful Seder, right? That's a beautiful Seder. And then he looks at him and he says, is that true? That's called simcha. That's called being free. That's cherus. And then he changed his tone of voice, and he said, simcha heist. The real simcha is as mezitz tazoy, that you're sitting just like this. He says, you're sitting just like this, and you're happy, you and the Rebbeinu Shalom. Real simcha means that a person is happy, he's sold, he and the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's real simcha. He says, a simple table like this, nothing, no silver and no gold, no sons and no son-in-laws, as he said, no grandchildren, nothing. And you sit by the Seder, and you're happy with Hashem. And if a person accepts with Ahava and with Simcha, and he was going on, only with Hashem, it's him and Hashem, that's real Cherus. Cherus is someone that's free. Now, free means there is absolutely nothing that could take the person out of their comfort zone. He doesn't need that there should be a lot of money, doesn't need a lot of people, doesn't need anything. He has that level of excitement, that deep pleasure, exactly like that person that has everything, he has it. That's called free, because whatever happens around and around doesn't have the ability, doesn't have the koich to take it away. He says, you hold on to Hashem with bitochen, amun, and hope, as real cherus. Now, the Sefer Ish Chassid Hoya, which brings a story, relates a beautiful moral. And he says, what Rebbe Elorad said explains the Maral. The Maral says that if we look at the Pesach Seder, if we look at the table, we'll see something it's really a bit of awkward. You see that the kalim, you have beautiful piece of silver, the plates, and the centerpieces, and whatever it is so gorgeous and so, it's rich. And then it's all coming because of the food. And then you look at the food itself, and you see lechem oini. Lechem oini is so poor, and it makes no sense. Wouldn't it be better if you're trying to explain a poor situation, then maybe we should have plaster goods or less by the Seder table, and that would be more appropriate. Or if we have all these silvers, spoons and forks, whatever it is, then we should be having in the midst of it the most a Rebbe Shechala. How does these two go one with each other? So the Maral says that that is the point. The idea is to show that I don't need to have a Rebbe Shechala in order to feel like a king. That's the concept, that's the Nakuda. I could feel Becheirus, I could sit like a king and act like one and feel like one, and nothing could take it away. A person could be sitting in jail, and their feeling that they have, and the nefesh rechova that they have, is exactly like they would be just on top of the mountain. They say the Chazon Ish came to visit Rabbi Amram Loi when he was in jail. And the Chazon Ish said, you know what I saw? I saw the whole world is in jail and he's free. That's what I saw. It's because I saw the person, he's doing fine. If he could be doing fine under such circumstances, it means that his nefesh, he's really, really becheirus. Now this story is not only a story of chizik for a person which feels that their Seder is lacking parts that they would wish that they would have, people that are spending Pesach in the hospital and people that are spending Pesach in jail. Just before I was talking to a person that's spending Pesach in jail. It's not only for such situations, it's every one of us, every single person, no matter what, has to learn this story and understand that's the essence of the Seder. Because we're really thanking the night of the Seder that Hashem took us mi'avdos l'cheirus. Lefikach anachnu chayobam lahoidos. That's what we thank, and that's what we're trying to concentrate, trying to understand it, in order we should be able to really be thankful. And in order for a person to really be able to understand what cheirus is, what being free is, then they need to really learn the topic of cheirus, understand what it is. Now, we don't know what it is, what cheirus is, because we're not so exposed to slavery to know what avdus is. But sometimes a person that sits in economy in the middle seat, when touchdown, when the plane lands, they feel me'avdus l'cheirus. They feel that they couldn't, if it would be 1 minute longer, they wouldn't make it. They were so stuck. They couldn't move, they couldn't budge, it wasn't normal. But we don't really have the oimek, but we need to have the depth, because if not, then we can't really experience what the Seder is doing to a person. The Seder is all about understanding what happened to us, and once we understand what happens to us, then we could really be thankful. Most times, when a person's really going through whatever it is, but they're in the middle of the events that are happening, they're in the middle of the roller coaster, they don't really have the tools to be able to chap what's really happening to them, because it's mid-crisis, and they're too busy coping to be able to observe from the outside and see, wow, I'm in the middle of transforming. You could only see that retroactive. That means when it's finished, then you could look back and see, wow, it's amazing how I was 10 years ago and how I look now. That's when you really see it. But when a person is in the middle of the action, trying to survive, to cope. They're looking for coping mechanisms. It's very important to understand it. What's the Seder? A person sits down by the Seder and he has mitzvahs to do. But the bottom line is that those mitzvahs, as a person should say the story, he should tell the story to himself mainly, and understand, hey look, this is what happened to us, and this is the beginning, and this is the end, and look what happened to every Yiddish neshama by being in Mitzrayim and being taken, the Eibusha took him out of Mitzrayim. So, the concept of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the concept of what a person is supposed to be feeling, understanding what happened to him, is understanding the taich, the literal explanation of the word Mitzrayim, which all the Hasidic Svarim explained that it means Mitzorim. Now, it's your chance to say, how do you translate it? Limitations. Oh, simple. The limitation, that means that a person has unbelievable koiches and nefesh. And the koiches, the inner koiches of a person, that is not only that they could be successful, not only that they could be emotionally deep, or that they could change the world. It's deeper than that. It's more. A person has all the koiches, all the tools to be able to connect to Hashem and become a ruchnisdige figure. It means he could be, Hashroes HaShechina could be constantly, the Shechina could be with him, and of course he could change the world, but he could be dovok, he could be close and connected to Hashem at any given moment. And a person was given the tools, because Hashem would never tell a person, hey, come here, please go there, do this and this shlichus for me, and not give the person the tools. How am I supposed to do it? How am I supposed to do? You expected me to do this, and how can I do it? Now, people sometimes feel that they don't have the tools for the nisyonos that they have. They have heard in the past many times that Hashem gives you the tools that you need to be able to conquer, to be able to be successful in your shlichus, what you're supposed to be doing, but they don't feel that they have those tools. There's various reasons. Sometimes because a person doesn't use the right methods to leave their matziv. It's like a person trying to leave the room through the window, and there's gates, and he says, I have a screwdriver, I have a key, but there's nothing that works against these metal gates. I can't get out. He says, the guy told me he's going to give me all the tools to leave. I opened the window, I couldn't get out. And the answer was, because why did you try going through the window? You should have went through the door. You got a key. That's the concept. Maybe you should be looking for a different way to leave your limitations, because be aware, you do have the tools for sure. There's no way that Hashem forgot to give you the key. That's not possible. So if you see that the route you're taking doesn't work, you might have to use a different highway, but there is a mahalach out there. Now, in this world, the Olam HaTeva, there isn't, a person does not have the key to be able to be free, to be able to have the levels of pleasure like a person that has his dream become true and more. Al pi derech hateva, some people have good luck, like they call it, and they have officially, quote unquote, a better life, and they don't have so many hardships, and some people just don't make it. Some people, that's it, too bad, they suffer. Now, the Torah gave us the key that we shouldn't be ever limited, and whatever person, whichever massive they go through, they should be able to have all the levels of pleasure. I think we once read this letter, the cleaning for Pesach. I found it again. So I just reminded myself, and I actually knew where it is. This is the letter that explains this. There's nothing better to explain. I just visited last week this big tzaddik, the tzaddik ador, mamish, nothing less. One of the people that the Gedolei Ador said the world is standing on his Torah. This Yid, Rabbi from David Weiss from Muncie, he is an ALS patient, and he wrote this letter to a woman that was also diagnosed, and she didn't want to put in a trach. she felt, what's the point to live like that with a feeding tube and such kind. Listen, however long this woman, for however long she could still live a normal life, so it has a point. But if she's going to be living a life that's just going to be so painful and so for all the people around, it's just going to take over their lives, what's the point? So he, with his eyes, wrote this letter. He couldn't write anymore. But it's a beautiful letter that he wrote looking at the computer, which typed it up. And he writes in the letter, he says, I'm in the same situation. This person is learning Torah for 17 years in this matziv. I just spoke to someone this week. This is Monday, no. I spoke Thursday night. I spoke to someone that's zoiche to help this person learn for Chavrusis. He told me that one of the biggest Rabbanim made sure to meet him, and he told him, I want you to know that you're supporting Torah. I don't think that since Ravina and Rav Ashi wrote up the Gemara, there was ever such Mesiras Nefesh for Torah, ever. Because it's not shaykh to understand which madrega it is to sit and learn Torah hours and hours. Mrs. Weiss told me that when he wanted to write to her letters, he would only write at 2-3 in the morning when he finished all his Dorim. When he finished learning with all his Chavrusas from morning, there's no eating, there's nothing to stop it. There's only sitting with Chavrusas Erevin and Aloha and tests and everything. At 2-3 in the morning, he would write letters. And I saw letters that he wrote to his children. Unbelievable. Akaponim, he writes here this exact point. He says, I'm going to read from the letter, I'm going to quote. He says, by me, my life is worth me every single day, even though I'm fully paralyzed and only my eyes could move. Baruch Hashem, I could learn and daven like a healthy person. The mind is fully working. And my family is happy to be able to see me. He says, the life of a goy is not choshev if they are limited and they can't live a pleasurable life. Chaye eichos, he says. That's why they choose to die instead of living such. It has a name, a type of a life of suffering. He says they choose to die. But a yid knows it means 1 minute that a person could do tshuva and could learn in olam hazeh. He says it's worth more than anything. So he says it's so exciting to be able to serve Hashem. Now he is living. There's no way, because in history, it's not possible to live that long. I mean, the doctor said when he was diagnosed, he has 3-4 years. We're talking about 17 years later. It's something that's. I went there to see Trius HaMeisim. When I walked in, I'm not gonna. It's a lot to elaborate, but I don't know if it's appropriate to say all the details. But it's not shaykh. Now, the concept behind all this is cherus. The concept behind all this means that there's things that they share a person's happiness. A person loses their money. A person loses. Some people, they lose their health. People lose family members. They have such disappointment and such tsar and such suffering. Cherus is the concept that is not possible to take it away. I mean, it's not possible to take away the pleasure from the person. It could be that it's harder to work on yourself to reach that level, but once a person reaches it, a person works on themselves and they know that you can't take away Hashem from the person. It's not possible. Now, this is something that every Yid got a matana from the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that happened throughout the journey that Yidden were in Mitzrayim. This is what happened. The bottom line is that they got Cherus. Cherus is included that they got the Torah, and there was Kriyas Yamsuf, and they had Mon, and they had Eretz Yisrael. We say this whole Dayenu of all the details. But in Kriyas Shema and Ma'ariv, we say, Hashem took us l'Cherus Olam. What happened? What happened was we got Cherus. Cherus is being free. That's what happened by being in Mitzrayim. And this is the concept that we're trying to learn and understand. That's what we got in Mitzrayim. Emes is simcha. This is real simcha. That's a story or whether that's real simcha and real cherus. That's why people live of happiness, even though something's happened in their life that weren't so exciting, and Leider worse than that, but they're full of life. They're full of simcha. They go and they're mechazik others. Because what happened? Hashem didn't take away himself from the Yid. Hashem is still there, and as long as Hashem is still there, then they're connected to the source of joy, to the source of pleasure. Now, how did this happen? Through being in Mitzrayim. This is what's happening right now. When Yidden were in Mitzrayim, they were in a matzav of choshech. But they held on tight to the Rebbeinu Shalom. They had a emunah, and that's why they kept whatever they were able to keep. They didn't have the Torah yet. But what could I do right now? They leshinu was shmam, es levusham, es leshoinam. There was the basics of Yiddishkeit that they had, that they kept, that they could do. And that's a very strong message for every Yid. When a person is in a matzav, they sometimes feel, but what do you mean? This matzav is making me less in ruchnius. I can't daven, or I can't learn, or I can't do mitzvahs because I'm in this situation. When Yidden were in Mitzrayim, they had the same exact matzav. But the concept is that they did whatever they were able to. The Hashem always wants from the person to connect to Him. Now, if you could learn Torah, then Hashem says, okay, I want you to learn Torah. If you can't learn Torah because of the circumstances or whatever it is, then you were never meant to be learning Torah. It means that you could connect to Hashem a different way. If you could daven, you have the time to daven. You're talking about a person has to daven. I'm saying, let's say a woman or whatever. If it's possible to daven, then that's the way that you're supposed to be using that in a form of connecting to Hashem. But if a person can't daven, then it means you were never supposed to do that. You were only supposed to be doing what you were able to do. Because all the time, which are tools, are kelim, how to connect to Hashem. But a person can always connect to Hashem. Or they connected to Hashem through being in Mitzrayim. Now, Hashem promises a person, if you connect to Hashem, if you're going to connect when you don't have anything, then I will take you out and you will be chedis, you will have all the oifanim and mahalchim, how to connect to Rebbeinu Shalom. But a person that says, I'm going to wait, I'm in limbo, I'm going to wait, when Hashem is going to give me Torah, Gdula, B'mokum Achas, including Nachas, and everything that I need, then I'll consider it. Then I might really learn with my chavrusa. I'll see. Then it doesn't work. A lot of people say they're gonna do it when they're gonna have. The concept is that you're not finding Hashem. You have to be finding Hashem in the matzav. If a person finds Hashem in the matzav that they are, then Hashem says, okay, now I'll take you out of that matzav because now you found me even though I was hiding. You found me in that matzav. Yidden and Mitzrayim, that's all they had. But they did what they were supposed to. Now, doing what they were supposed to includes more than one. It doesn't only include the Leishino Shemam, remembering of Hashem, but it's an interesting tone of the Eliyahu that the Yidden did chesed one with each other in Mitzrayim, and that's how they went out of Mitzrayim. They understood that this is something that I could do. I could do chesed. So that's what they did. And the Torah of the Eliyahu says that Hashem said, you're doing chesed with each other. I'm going to do chesed with you. I'm going to take you out of Mitzrayim. It's also something that a person sometimes has to figure out. Even a person is laying in a hospital, sometimes they can do a chesed with their neighbor in the other bed. They say that in Mitzrayim, in the Midbar, the Yidden had a problem that they couldn't do chesed. Why? Because everybody was able to have whatever they needed with the mon. Whatever that person wanted to imagine, they were able to imagine, then they got it. They tasted that. So they had a problem. So tzaddikim say what they did, even other opportunities of doing chesed. But the concept is if a person utilizes the choshech to do what I could do right here, then Hashem says, okay, and then a person touched the concept of chedus. Now,
those same people are the ones that are described that were in Memtes Shari Tumah.
Yes. While they were in Memtes Shari Tumah. This is the idea. It's so important because every person's in that matzav. I'll elaborate it, drop it. The Tzan Zerov said, how could a person waste time? He said, sit and learn. If you can't sit and learn, daven. He says you can't daven say Tillim. You can't say Tillim, go to the mikveh. he used that term because he used to go a few times a day, up and down. There's something behind that. A person that's a memta shari tumah, there's so many things that they could do, and a lot of them do it. They just don't understand that they're doing beautiful. There's so many things. That's why.
That could bring a turning point, probably.
Sure. That brings a turning point, but a person's supposed to chap it. That helps the turning point. It should happen. They should understand. Hashem knows you're in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim means they're limited. They can't do more. When a person is limited, Hashem never meant, that's the concept, Hashem never meant that a person should be doing something else right now. When it says in the Torah that a person is supposed to be kevei itim, why does it say kevei itim? Why do you leave koilel? Look at me in the eyes. You should have stayed in koilel. It's such a mistake. It's such a big mistake. A person, every person's different, and people's matzavim are different, and people's minds work differently, but Hashem told a person, right now, wherever you are, you're 35, you're 50, you're 62, it doesn't make a difference where you are in life. A person could find themselves in the most crazy situations now. This split second, on that split second, the Parasha Nitzavim says, Lo me'ever layami, lo rechoikehi, the Torah is never far. You don't have to do anything in order to reach the Torah. Nothing. What do you mean? I have to learn Aleph Beis. If you have someone right here teaching you Aleph Beis, okay. But if not, you could keep the Torah without learning Aleph Beis right now. It's never, if a person would need to, there's forum in Parshas Nitzavim, they explain, they say, let's say a person would need to travel 20 minutes to find a Rav, a Rebbe, to teach him Torah. Then the pasuk would not be accurate. You have to rip out that pasuk from the Torah. It says, it means, it's close to you. You don't have to go anywhere, not in time. You don't have to wait for a different time. You don't have to go to any different location. And of course it means a different matzav in the person's life. A person's life, they're in a certain matzav, right now, why? Because you could believe in Hashem. Because you could believe in Hashem. Like we said, the Yidden did whatever they could in Mitzrayim. That's how you take out the Nitzoitis of Mitzrayim. This Forum explained. They were there because this Chelki Kedusha, I don't know where to explain that. This sparks of Kedusha that were hidden in Mitzrayim. And the Yidden were there because they absorbed it. They were like a magnet. The Chaim HaKadosh uses the term of a magnet in Parshas Boy. He said they were exactly like a magnet to be able to, they drew all those sparks of Kedusha to their neshama, and when they had those sparks of Kedusha, that's when they were able to leave Mitzrayim and never return to Mitzrayim again. You're not allowed to, because it's closed shop. There's nothing to do there anymore. That's what it is to go back to Mitzrayim. The Gemara says that they made Mitzrayim like a Metzuda she'in bo dogon and a Metzula she'in bo dogim, which means dry, finished, nothing left of it. Why? You know how you do that? How do you do that? A person connects to wherever they are right now and says, what can I do right now? They're in the hospital room, you know how much, what a Kiddush Hashem they could make by being nice to the nurses or whatever. It's a crazy amount of things if a person understands, what can I do? There's so many things I could do right now in this matter. I could be nice to people, I could smile, I could do this and this chesed, I could think about Hashem, I could thank. And in any matzav, mitzvah is bad. Now believe me, it's bad. And they did whatever they could. Now when a person does that, that takes the sparks of Kedusha. That's what's amazing about it. That's what makes the sparks of Kedusha come. It's, if we would use an example, it's like a person would come into a room, and in the room there's a bunch of depressed people. Very, very tzabrochana people. The person would walk into that room, and he wouldn't try to take someone's attention, try to be mechasek. Wouldn't do that. He would just smile and act nice and be uplifted, and slowly. What would happen was the other would dance along with him. It'd take time, but that's what would happen slowly. They would be drawn to the energy, to the positive energy that's going on. If the person would be doing it sensitive enough, and just not trying to get him to do it. Sparks of Kedusha work that way. When you act in a matzav shel choshech, and your person acts in a matzav shel choshech like that, I'm fine. The person is here, says, okay, I'm setting up shop right here, picnic table, takes whatever they have towels at film, okay, they daven, they sing to Hashem, this is what I have, this is what I got. Then this is what the Yidden in the war, whenever, throughout the Klal Yisrael's matzavim, what happens is, those sparks of Kedusha, you can't even see them. They're not dafka human beings. They don't have to dafka be human beings. They're out there depressed. They're waiting for 2,000 years to go out of their meitzar. They say, oh, hey, wow, I'm listening to nice calm music there. And they come out of their hiding place and they connect to that neshama. And then when the person is finished, Hashem sends a sign to us, okay, you can take your table and go, because you finished doing what you need to do. And then Hashem takes a person, takes him to a different place. I think we have mentioned in the past, the Ben Ish Chai. He says that if you look at the history of Klal Yisrael, Yidden were in Mitzrayim, they finished, they left. He says then Yidden were in Bovel. Torah was learned. It wasn't simple times, if you look at all. But then when they finished taking out the sparks of Kedusha from that place, he says, done. He says, right now, nowadays, I don't know, that's what he says. He says, I don't know if there's a person that could say Shema Yisrael there. One Yid that could actually finish the pasuk of Shema Yisrael. Finished. And we have experienced it in Europe. It doesn't make any sense. Finished. Now Ukraine, what happened there, the Yidden are being forced to leave, whatever's going to happen, but it's constantly like that. The Yidden are in a certain place and then they finish. The same exact thing is with Matzovim, with a situation that a person is in. A person is there. That person says, yeah, but I'll wait until I could do something, because right now, there's nothing I can do. It's not true. There is something you can do in this Matzav. Do that. It's fine. It's not chizik. It's not only compromising. It's deeper than that. It's muchrach that that's what you're supposed to be doing, because that's how you're supposed to be serving Hashem in this matzav. Imagine a person is trying to teach 5th graders. Now he's very upset because he wanted to really be Rosh Hashiva. We won't get all the horrible whatever experience that he had, but that was really his dream. And the bottom line is they forced him to be a 5th grade Rebbe. He can never be Meichel, the people that did that. But one of the ways that he's taking revenge is by teaching 5th grade what he wanted to teach those 19-year-old boys. You're laughing. Some kids are crying right now as we speak. For that. I mean, he's standing there and he can't. He says, Reb Shimon Shkop, and he's telling them, and the guys are like, what do you want? We're doing that all the time. That means, who says he's wrong? You want to know why you're wrong? Because in this classroom, you're not helping anybody by doing that. Hashem wants you to have the patience and the smile and to teach them whatever. If it's Mishnayos, maybe it's Chilas Gemara, whatever it is. That's what Hashem wants from you. If not, you're totally lost. And if you are doing your right job, you're connecting to Hashem on the most phenomenal way. Most phenomenal way. You're the one that's right now connected to Hashem, teaching these boys. You're the middleman. The same is anything. The same is when the matzahs, a person does that matzahs, whatever it is. They say this beautiful story about Sklener Rebbe Zechron Levracha. It was the Vizhnitzer Rebbe Taka, right? Yeah. Which Vizhnitzer Rebbe? He sent, Reb Chaim Meyer sent his son. Yesterday was Reb Chaim Meyer, the 50th yahrzeit of the Vizhnitzer Rebbe Zechron Levracha, Reb Chaim Meyer. He sent his son to go. There was a line of matzahs right after the war. And the line of people waiting, this Glenn Rebbe had matzahs, and he gave each person one matzah. And whoever he was able to give. Now this Vizhnitzer Rebbe told his son to ask this Glenn Rebbe for 2 matzahs. This Glenn Rebbe said, I can't give you 2 matzahs. It's 1 matzah. He said, my father said I need 2 matzahs. And he was going on and on, back and forth and back and forth. And then I think he gave him. He gave him 2
or nothing.
Or 2 or nothing, his father told him. So he gave him 2. After he finished the whole giving out, they went to him. And he gave him a matzah for his kleiner Rebbe. He told him, the end of the story was that Reb Chaim Maya explained to his son, I knew he's not going to take away even one matzah for himself. He's not going to even save one matzah for himself. So I knew that. So I begged for two. So he should have one matzah. He should have one matzah. It's such a story. It's not shaykh. But it's a person that has his head on straight besides everything else. It's a madriga. But the concept is, what's the point? The success story is the person. That person that can make a check in all the boxes, that could say, that's why some people, it's maybe a drop sensitive, I'll say it anyways, because some people took a wrong point from this whole Reb Chaim Kanievsky, going away from the world, the God Ladur, Tzaddik Hadur. Some young heads understood that the success story is that he finished the book. The success story is that he learned Obabli and Yushalmi and Safra and Zefri. So that's called someone that made it. And look, everybody was maspid. Everybody said he's a God Lador. Everybody. So it must be that's the moral of the story. So if that's the moral of the story, then okay, guys, like someone made a song, he wants to have a charusa that he doesn't know his name. People wrote such things. He wants to copy. It's a fundamental mistake in Yiddishkeit. It's not only a psychological mistake that he'll never succeed. It's Yiddishkeit now. That's not the success story of Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Even if he finished everything, that's not the story. Because that's not what Hashem asked every person to do. A Yid is supposed to be a Yid. And Hashem throws different situations to every person. And that's why it says that when people are going to come upstairs, there's going to be Elyonim Lamata v'Tachtonim Lamala. If it's only Reb Chaim Kanievsky's out, it's not so hard to figure them out. Yeah, figure it out. Who else knows Shasa Poiskim? It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that. It says that any person that's going to be serving Hashem in their situation, as hard as they could, they made it. Not also made it. They're the thing. Does the zach. And that's why there's no two the same. There's no two situations the same. But if a person gives it all they got, even if they're learning Chumash Rashi, it doesn't make a difference. They gave it all they got. Now, to finish off, to sum it up, that brings chayres to a person. Yidden were in Mitzrayim. Now, it's many times people ask that question, what's the connection? They were in Mitzrayim and then Hashem took them out and then they got chayres. They were in Mitzrayim, and it was harder circumstances, and they said circumstances don't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. That's the point. The point is what I could do. And then, what happens is you're ready to be Makabal the Torah. You're ready. You're emotionally ready. You have Koichas and you also absorbed all that Kedusha. But you're ready to be Makabal the Torah, because that's what the Torah is telling you. Be a Evet. An Evet means, like a person told me, he works in Uber. He says he gets up in the morning, he learns before davening, he davens, he learns after davening. He says, then I open my phone at 11, whatever it is, and then, whatever happens, chesed, and this, and every day different story. He says, every Friday he runs around, parashas with shafing money people, whatever it is, whatever phone call I get. I should read it, I should read it shidduch, I read it shidduch. Next thing, person's submitting money for rent, okay, we're going to get money for him. Maybe that's how he works. Every person with their tools, every person with their tools, but they take their tools and say, okay, I guess this is the formula that Hashem gave me. So what happens is, then they made themselves be Ben Choyden. They took away all the mitzvah, all the limitations. They said, I don't care. That's what they said. Hashem says, you said that you're Makabel, Oil Machar Shemayim, no matter what. Now I'm going to give you b'schar, the feeling of that. Now I'm going to give you the schar is that you're really going to feel like Ben Choyden. You didn't originally feel that you don't care. You said you don't care. Who you cared? Remember those boys in Chena? They said, I don't care. They hurt them. We start like an Eved. We say whatever. Hashem says, like people ask the children before Pesach, you rather want to do the kitchen? You want to do the oven? You want to do? They said, I don't care. They do care. They care, but they say that if they're goodies, they say whatever it is. We start saying like that. And then Hashem says, I'm going to give you the feeling that you're not going to care. That's chayros. And I left the gevelige yantif. And we should be able to talk at wie beim is bechayros.
I have a quick mushal that might fit. In modern cars, there's a lot of computer functions. And the more expensive the car,